Alrighty, daily trading recap. Let's get after it on the day. 3 pretty nice little trades, all green on all of them, but one kind of a break even. Just another lesson in adjusting and being able to adapt on the fly, but we'll get into those in the specific tickers themselves, just from market internals. Before we get going, fundamentals for the day here. SPY looking at a little 0.08% day in the red intraday, but of course tapping all-time highs here. Might be peaking here after this very sharp V that we came out these last 5 days. Already pretty insane to see there. For dollar volume on the day, we are 2 hours, 13 minutes after the close here. NASDAQ, $137 billion volume. NYSE, $158 billion volume. OTC's $1.5 billion volume. Pretty sharp drop off to see there in dollar volume, but again, still opportunity out there as ever. And even, kind of related to just now of when I do my little preparation for these videos, you never get to that point where you feel like, oh, sweet, 100%. I am so ready, prepared, ready to go for this. I'm doing the preparation. I'm doing the little journaling notes and kind of outlining roughly in my mind what I want to think and what I want to do. And I could totally easily relate that to just trading, going into the market open of, gosh, I've got so many ideas and I'm so many tickers up and doing the research preparation, work beforehand to kind of plot out what I think is going to happen, what I want to, how I want to respond if I see these certain things happening. But again, it's that same thing. You can never be totally 100% prepared because nothing is ever going to 100% follow your exact thinking, and nothing is logical whatsoever. So it's just a great place to be. It's just always on your toes and continuing to learn to be adaptive and never so set in your ways that you just continue to dissipate and live a nothingless life is how I viewed it that way. But that's pretty philosophical that way on the introduction. Other notes I mentioned here too of two of these trades were real for me today because in these past few weeks I've been just totally paper or very, very small size going long through my cash account just to continue to get myself in that mindset of fine-tuning the trades themselves and just looking at the charts and disattaching the emotion from it, but just getting back to the basics of, am I in the right charts or am I looking at the right thing? And just being able to have that clean and fresh perspective and not being so tied down to, oh gosh, well, if I take this trade and I'm going to lose this much, but just stupidity that I get myself into time and time again that way. I feel we've been making great strides so far in these past few weeks and getting that win rate up, especially, and just getting us back in the right sector for trades that I want to fit best to my personality. So slowly starting to get back into real trades and not going full blast, especially with position size that I want to be getting into, or even everything that I'm doing being full real trading. Still having a few paper trades on there on BFRI was paper for me on the day. But even that too, it's just maintain that paper side of it just to keep myself in that perspective of, okay, everything that is here is just flashing numbers on a screen. It's that point at which we have to continue to push, disassociating the emotion of money and the attachment to money and play it almost like a video game. It's not going to be a YOLO fest. It's just not going to be gambling like crazy, but riding over that hump and that little barrier of human intelligence and being able to play this game as it's meant to be played. Those are the steps that we're looking to take here. I'm continuing to go forward and baby stepping along the way with that. So $51 day in the green, $51 day in the green for me. Pretty nice there. Also writing down, I love to be scaling out of my winning trades. We're going to see that on BFRI and SOPA as well. But kind of learning that a little bit from Tim Grittani, just paying yourself along the way. I think he was probably the master of that type of philosophy, but that kind of limits me and handcuffs me to an extent of when I'm looking to then look at my risk profile of, okay, how much can I risk on this trade? Because I know on the cut side, if I'm going to cut a loser, I'm going to be cutting that full position. I'm not going to be scaling out my losers like I'm scaling out my winners. So it becomes a little different because I know most of these charts, BFRI and SOPA especially, we're going huge percentage moves. And, if that's a 20% potential profit trade, but I end up taking 11%, 12% on that trade because I'm scaling out along the way, paying myself. That's tough when looking at the cut side, when knowing, okay, can I give it really 5% to move behind me if I'm in it beforehand, if I'm in it before the move starts, or how much can I give it that way too, and how does that coincide with the win rate in order to work out in an efficient manner that way, in a profitable manner that way. So just all things to continue to consider going forward, but yeah, certainly love making strides like this today. Much to learn from, but much to lean our cap on today as well. Let's get into it. We did dollar volume. Let's go into MBOT first. This was the kind of break-even one. Second day play, just for reference for me, 6 million floater, American medical device company. That news catalyst on the first day was they had a collaboration on some robotic neurovascular medical device, blah, 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 whatever. They still got like $10 million at the money through H.C. Wainwright, and also like $20 million left on a December shelf. And then looking through their little S3s that happened back in 2019, it was also kind of showed back in December as well, like an end of year thing where they did like $30 million worth within like a 5-day period span right near the end of the year on that 2019. So of course they didn't do it in 2020, but maybe that has some amount of weight here as we're in that same time frame. So potentially carrying that into this short trade thesis as well on this one today. But again, just applying the same principles that I'm trying to become data driven through the charts I'm collecting on these types of plays of, hey, looking at all second day plays, putting them all into having their charts saved on the day, then going into an Excel spreadsheet, logging all their information. Then when I get a new chart like an MBOT, I'm looking at pre-market or after hours on the day before to say, okay, this is the sector, this is this float, this is the market cap of this stock. Have any recent runners in the past 2 to 3 weeks done any similar things or looked similar to this? Can we get any information or potential trade market sentiments on these charts from little past charts, these little revolving 2 to 3 week window charts that have happened recently? So continuing to just go on that thesis with this trade, especially as well, that some of these second day movers, there's kind of these rest days, just a little weird indifferent days, but I feel mainly in the morning session as well, there's just been a little dumpy sentiment that maybe we get a little bit of a perk here, kind of like it had that I was hoping or that I was expecting a little bit on the trade or in the intra trade. And some other ones too, we've seen the same thing then. Those are the shorting opportunities for some guys that they're just looking for that little perk above VWAP, short into that, and then just ride it the rest of the way down. Whereas, I'm kind of looking for that as well, but also maybe, hey, can we start scaling in pre just to respect if it just does start to dump and doesn't really offer an opportunity or becomes this little like fake out. It's a further distance away from VWAP and doesn't all the way reach there to offer any bid support in that little morning volatility and then falls off. So respecting those levels that way and capturing the trade as best we can, while also not just losing our head and being so stuck underground if it does start to spike against us that way. But for the intra trade itself, starting in again pre, just kind of that blanketing of a short to say we're under VWAP here. We could perk again back above VWAP before market open, even back to 810 here, but I'm going to start in right around the 787 area. This was a real trade, 100 shares through trade zero. Pretty decent borrow fees through them today. And so the thesis was, okay, I don't have a hard convicted thesis that it's going to happen from here, but this is protection again that I think we are. This, even at my entry point, you could say, hey, we're kind of putting in higher lows here off this little bottom that was putting at 7.8 in this pre-market. But even out there, hey, we're just blanketing it. If it does got to go against us, I'm going to continue that thesis again. I'm not going to be so bound to the PDT day trade restriction that I screwed myself over with so many times that, these day trades are valuable. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to cut it here and waste a day trade. If this thing started to spike against me, if it went above 810 before market open, I was definitely going to be out 100%. And then I probably would have still gotten in if it had a little morning spike opportunity to short into it and wasted 2 day trades on that. And that's, I can look at that and say, that's misproper planning of your day trades on the week. Well, now you're going to only have 1 day trade. And of course, I got 2 day trades accounts, 2 margin accounts to be able to day trade with. So 6 day trades on the week. But even at that too, of where was I going with that? That's the ritual I fell into, and that's not how you win. That's how they frickin' get you, and that's not how I want to view these trades whatsoever. I want to be totally free, and that's what I've shown these past few weeks with my data, that going through that little process of, hey, if it's not pretty much immediately going where I think it's going to go or following along with what my idea is for that trade, then just cut it. Release yourself from the chart and the stupidity that these things can just put on you and open the perspective up to what's actually happening, because then a long opportunity might come out that sometimes I didn't realize. I remember that on GRTX, I think was the ticker, that I was just looking at it super short for some reason, and then looking back at the end of the day, I was like, why wasn't I thinking long? I was thinking long on so many other tickers that were doing the exact same thing. Why wasn't I? So having that clean and open perspective, I think, is going to be the key with that, of why I focus on don't get so attached to those day trades and trying to bag hold and force a little bit more out of the trade than is actually there, but just be free and loose and ready to accept what's coming on the day. But MBOT here, yeah, starting in, we get to the fall to 7.7 here, just not awesome percentage move wise, and I wasn't expecting this thing to just drop off the face of the planet into a 10% profit opportunity, but looking for a little bit of continual death and bleeding within this morning volatility, and maybe we get a little bit of a perk. That would have been another short opportunity had I had a bigger position size or looked to scale into this one a little bit more, but I was fine with 100 shares I had from this position there. Again, we get a little bounce here around 7.7, so going into market open, as it wasn't just completely dying off at that point, I cut my risk, cut my position in half, and that appeased me a lot for what the trade was going to be, and said, okay, now I've got a lot more wiggle room to let this thing go, have its little morning spike, do what it ever wants to do at VWAP here, then we get a little peel off, but it got me a little bit as we get into market open, that it was almost just too good to be true. I wrote in my journal here for that of, it's getting this perfect little fade off. It's resting on these lows here in pre-market from that first screen day that I had in market hours. Then we're getting this nice little sell-off right at the gate, this first 3 minutes, bounce to VWAP, rejection off of VWAP. It was just going too well almost, and I didn't want to believe it, and it was just, okay, I don't know what's going on with this one. Maybe it was because I was actually in the trade, maybe it was a different factor there, but pretty much top tick that last cover around 7.84 to keep me in the green, keep me a green trade on that one, but sure enough, there was a few more cents to let it go, and I know that as it was in this moment here and breaking this red candle with decentish volume, but kind of double bottoming off of those lows there, I knew if I was still in the trade, I would have been covering a decent portion of the position, if not the whole thing, because it was just like, for some reason, these big movers on low floaters that just don't move right away. I mean, it was a decent volume on the day, $70 million I'm showing here that we traded by the end of the day. It should be doing something, and there was just that little hint, that little whiff, call it the spidey senses or intuition, that I just don't really want to be in this one. This one is just feeling weird. So I know I would have been covering anyway around 7.65ish even. So it wouldn't have been a slam dunk awesome trade. And especially coming to this point here where it just all of a sudden gets huge spike up to new high of day, up to $8, and then just immediately slam back down to new low of day in the next minute candle there on huge volume, the same thing. That was a reassurance to me after even having that thought of, okay, I knew I would have been covered at least a lot in this little move there, to say, okay, there was some manipulation, something else was going on, and I'm glad I got out of that before that just stupid sketchiness that is just a mind-numbing experience to be a part of. And then, of course, afternoon session just does whatever it wants to do, has some little perks here, and we'll see what the third day wants to do. I'm potentially not thinking that it has anything predictable or playable. It'd certainly be a watch and a candidate to learn from. If it does anything, has any type of box to be able to trade on that day tomorrow, a recognizable pattern to play off of. But gosh, yeah. The idea grade for me, I gave myself on this one, call it a C. It's an average of, it's not awesome. And if you're perfect, especially somehow you're perfect, you're playing it from even $8 to this immediate drop off with huge volume, even covering right there at 7.5, that's 50 cents on the dollar. That's a decent little trade even for that. Or even if, around my entry price of $8 in pre-market, playing this thing perfectly, you're getting just under 7.4, kind of close little move there. The opportunity was there, but it wasn't a beautiful, awesome opportunity. So I give myself a C for the idea of the trade, that what I thought was going to happen on the day versus what the chart actually showed. Execution on my trade idea, I give myself a B. I can't give myself an A, because if I had covered here in this little point where I was thinking after I had that little stupid cover the rest of my half a position, I would have given myself an A for that thesis, being able to adapt on the fly and just kind of that intuition and little spidey sense of what the chart was saying and what was going on there. Covering at that point, of course, it wasn't the perfect low on the day from where my move was, but in the same thing too, that's not how these charts work. You can't just picture perfect, pick them and then just completely disregard them and then come back after this has happened and then say, oh sweet, yeah, now it's down at 7.3 and now I can cover at that point. That's how I would like it to happen as I reviewed the charts, but that's just not how it works that way. So C grade for the idea, B grade for the execution on MBOT BFRI. Now we'll get into the heavy hitters. Very, very nice mover on the day. A+ for the idea on the trade thesis. In this little multi-day move, we had this, call it a little, not even a double top rejection here, but harder red day on the sell-off from yesterday on Monday. Now just looking for that continuation move, call it a first red day type of move there. I knew on the volume profile wise, a confirmation of this trade for me that it was going to be a full beautiful red day trend was going to be this 9.6-ish, 9.7-ish area. If we bounced off of there, and I know it would find some resistance potentially, and then look to the next few days, see if it has any more consolidation and any pattern to potentially play off from there. But sure enough, if we were going to break through that little bottom, then it would be, watch out below, it could be a harder red day after that. So again, kind of starting in at pre-market, looking for that move to that point of 9.6, of looking to sell into there. If it had any perk higher, yeah, if it was breaking above 11, I was definitely going to be out in pre. And this was all mental, of course. This was my mental trade short to keep myself in that paper mindset still as I'm kind of easing myself back in. But then I mentioned here of, so now we're short here in this pre, kind of off of this little VWAP rejection again. It's kind of holding around these lows here, testing VWAP, but we get into market open, it does start to sell off more. Doesn't really have any nice VWAP attempt. VWAP is still clinging pretty hard to the downside of that price move, and sure enough, we get lower and lower pulls here, and I'm just covering around these whole dollar levels. Nice little $10 cover here as it flushes right into that. Does try to reclaim VWAP again, bounces off at the top of that, get a nice another pull here into this bottom of 945-ish that was mentally covering there again, and a nice covering into strength there, into hard red moves, which is an easy sign for me to say, okay, hard move there, let's cover a little bit. Big volume coming in on that. Let's get a nice little cover. It's just the simple way to take an exit. And scaling out once again and just covering little bits, paying myself along the way. I know if we do break that 9.6 point, this is a first red day move. It's been up for an incredibly long time in this multi-day move. And for the volume it traded today too, you would think that we should see some harder movement to the downside if it was to truly say its intention was red on the day, that bag holders, your time is over. This thing is now on the backside. Just giving it that little bit of lottery ticket feel to say, hey, go however far you want to go. But it was just getting hard pulls here. And I set my last mental limit order cover at that $9 level area. And sure enough, it does reach there. Pulls a little bit lower here and there. And then after a noon session, it fades hard into the close there, tapping $8 here in the after hours. It's absolutely insane. So could see some more panic tomorrow. But yeah, like I mentioned, the volume on it today just really didn't signify that it was a true panic day. And maybe there weren't any true bag holders in this one that were panicking out of it. It was just an overhead of sellers looking to profit off that same opportunity of breaking support levels there from the previous days. But that was an awesome A+ idea grade for the trade of just playing the daily, playing potential historical repeatable patterns that way of the first red day play. And execution wise, got to give myself an A of, for what I was looking for, especially I'm looking for that morning session right there. What have you got for me in the first hour and a half? And I'll take it. And then we get into this point here, as I gave myself an A in execution-wise for what I was looking for, now we can get into this point of, okay, should this specific pattern here going forward in the future have called for a longer hold or a further percentage move weight? Because that voice was certainly in the back of my head of, man, we got to be looking for, even as I'm covering here just under 9.5 with that last little, as it pulled again, tried to break lows here and starts pulling around this point, I'm going, okay, maybe I should take the rest of the position off here. That's, a decent little trade there at that point. Don't be greedy with this one. But in the same voice too, it was, this trade should be going so much further. I mean, we should be setting $9 as a minimum target for almost that first cover, right? Of what this trade should have potentially done if we were going to break those 9.6, 9.7 levels of the volume profile wise to the downside there around that point. So that's where we can get to this discussion now too. Once we've established, okay, that trade was there, we've nailed the trade, we've been a part of it. Now can we adjust and fine tune the strategy of, should we be holding these things for the potential longer intraday hold at least, or should we be holding them for multiple days if we're looking for now another red day continuation off of this one? Also funny here to mention too, I do not think it's a coincidence that we top tick here as its little VWAP attempt in this afternoon session right around that same area, this little volume profile resistance point of 9.6 to 9.7-ish range there. Not a coincidence in my book that these things work out again and again, time and time again that way. Gosh, that was an awesome one. Great one to be a part of there, just mentally on that side. And last one here that I was a part of, SOPA, little going along on this kind of red day reversal. And it was almost backing off the same thing that I mentioned with BFRI coming into today off of the scale right here of, man, I had the 2 red days before today with just not a lot of volume. It wasn't convincing to me that this was the panic, that this was the all hail sentiment that, hey, this trend is over. We are no more parabolic, no more squeeziness. We're done. We're just going to go continue red, maybe come back down to $10, $8 and just fizzle out, do whatever. Just didn't have that in mind. And the day before, not last week, but Monday, yesterday, call it a little bit of a bottoming here around 12.5-ish range, puts in a higher low there, 12.75-ish range there. And then after hours pre-market here, kind of puts in a higher low again, if you want to call it that, with the little volume it did have around that $13 level area. So basing the trade off of that, of saying, hey, go long, I think this could have a nice reversal here off of that point as almost fake out of a long day, of a red day continuation, because it is that crazy low 11 million floater Asian e-commerce. It's done that in these past few days on the run up of, you think it's going red, but sure enough, before you know it, it's halted against you, just going crazy in your face. So keeping in mind that point for the characteristic potential of this trade on this chart specifically, that, hey, we can get parabolic pretty quick here and just be looking, almost waiting for that potential halt if we get enough shorts to pile in on this one. Can't wait for lightning to strike twice, and shouldn't be expecting that, but keep in mind the characteristics and potential of the stock. Maybe they open up the circuit breakers in this one, maybe they don't, but yeah, keeping that in mind. I wrote in my journal here, I just want to get into that, it's not even Gratani mindset, but just blanketing the skies in these pink arrows of just taking profits along the way, paying yourself, all these little points. I was just I didn't have a hard idea of where I want to be taking profit. It was just, I was setting round dollar, half dollar level areas. Hey, we're at 14, sweet. I thought we were getting toppy here at 14.2. Okay, sweet, 14.2 might be another top. Let's take profits there. 14.5, and we're getting another half dollar level area. I'll set a limit order there. Sure enough, runs right into it, pulls back off of there. I'm a freaking genius, right? Comes back down to VWAP, has this little inflection point, little tumultuous wrestle under VWAP. That obviously became the new risk level point after I got a stupid entry trying to chase, and not so much trying to chase, but respecting the ability for this thing to move so quickly on pretty little volume. Total today, the volume was 284 million on SOPA, but even in that little morning session of, okay, it's not slam dunk insane blow your socks off volume like we saw on those initial run up days that way. Yeah, so kind of respecting that. Thought we were going to have that action in that little second minute candle there, but sure enough, it pulled back under VWAP, but found a little bit of base. If it was breaking under $13, I was definitely going to be out of it, using that as a little risk level. And again, could have obviously risked this 12.5 area and give it that much space to go. But if it was going to go that far, then I would have been willing to take an entry there and save myself the 50 cents if it was just going to go that far against me, and open the perspective and not being so attached to this thing still long, just hoping for any amount of support to come in on this one. Free the mind that way. But again, back to the exits of, yeah, looking like a genius as it's selling off there, pulling back under VWAP, and then we get a nice little spike back above VWAP for the potential. That's why we hold this lottery tickets little last few shares on to say, hey, we could go a little further. I'm just going to let you do what you want to do. We've taken our profits. It's there. If you die now, we're certainly fine with it. We've taken our money along the way. Thought I was getting toppy there on that second one, so took off like a last fifth or whatever the position I have, or like a tenth of the position. So I had like 1/10 left, or whatever it was at that point. So saving the last one's like, I think this thing could easily go to $15. I think I'm shortchanging myself if I don't settle for $15. Sure enough, it goes to 15. Slaps right there, and then spikes. I'm like counting my cash, right? It's like after the casino, like, haha, awesome. And then I just like look back and it's at 16.6. I'm going, what? Absolutely bonkers. But again, the same thing of trying to predict these tops. It's fun to be in them and just learning from them experience-wise of, okay, there was over $1 share more beyond my last entry point with my last little lottery ticket trade. I had a little bit more room in the tank on this one specifically to get playful with it. Not too playful for how fast it was moving around those price levels, but okay, we can learn from it to say that's why I give myself an A grade rating for the execution wise. I can't give myself an A plus because of how much more upside there was there. But yeah, I can't knock myself for taking solid profits at key whole dollar level areas all along the way. Just very nice little trade there, and great step. This was a real cash account trade, so great step again into the real side of the emotional spectrum of that trading side again. So gosh, yeah. Awesome movers on the day. Those are my 3 trades. Now let's get into, I got a bunch of tickers I wanted to mention, just keeping on watch. CPOP is the first one for huge after hours here. It's moving. Showing here, let's see what its actually percentage move. I don't even want to do that math for what it's actually up. It's showing 35% here at the close, but that's got to be a heck of a lot more, over 100% here that we're running after hours. Chinese 10 million floater. Let's see any news catalyst as of right now, but who really cares, right? You can call this like a first screen day mover. Let's get the perspective here a little bit closer. Big volume day today. And looking at like an afternoon VWAP hold style trade as it's continuing to push these little higher lows, hold these little bottoms, continue to push. That's a nice little trade opportunity there, even in and of itself. And then you can still, I can identify the layers here of, okay, yeah, I could see why it could be a nice afternoon or overnight hold even for this style of trade. I'm dissecting that morning volatility too. Could be a extravaganza in itself, but God, yeah, this might be certainly one to look forward for other charts following along similar to this type of price action in the future, and using this one as a reference point for those style of trades if they follow along this crazy, sketchy, low floaterness, Chineseness that this one has. So yeah, really tough for me to say that I have any plans on this one, especially for the second day play, because none have really done this type of price action. That's what I base a lot of my trades off of. Are they similar charts to what has happened recently in this past 2-3 weeks time span? But yeah, this might be a little interesting one to learn from that way. PTPI, again, the same thing. This one's been on the multi-day scanner for a while, and this little bottom line wedge hold has just been continuing to grind up and up for how long is this? Back into the start of November almost. This one has just been continuing to chug that way. So if it, going to the long side, you could play an easy little swing and obviously just risk that low. But watching this one as a short, it's just like, if that trade is actually confirmed and it does break that line, is there going to be a huge follow through behind that, or is it going to be a fake out? I could totally see both sides of that. I think it's going to be an interesting watch that way perspective. I could see myself hopping in short if it does end up breaking that line there. But I could also see, yeah, like I mentioned, of getting it faked out pretty easily there by any manipulation of obvious market makers looking at that same line. That's easy to spot there on PTPI. TSOI OTC ticker that had a very nice little first green day here, 135% in the green. We'll see if it has a nice second day continuation going tomorrow, topping at that 5 cent area. Tomorrow could be a nice little second day continuation gap up mover there. And again, I probably won't trade it as I'm keeping my focus on the small cap NASDAQs as of right now, but still being aware of what the OTC sector is offering at any given point in time. AVCT is also another one similar to PTPI that it's just kind of a sketchy, weird stock. This is an American tech company, that 20 million floater. These little days are just weird, in my opinion. The type of price action it's doing daily is just you can make some amount of patterning off of the little parabolicness that it's doing, but again, it's just kind of weird. And I could feel myself getting stopped out so many times on this one. And yeah, this little like bricky type of price action is just not my favorite type of movement that way. Like CEI, how that was trading that way. They do have a news catalyst after the close here. Decent little news catalyst, but yeah, it's just hitting a lot of key criteria marks for a breakout point. If it does start to climb back up to this 2.6 area, 2.7, 2.8, I think it could offer some nice potential little spikiness. It is relatively low floater for $28 million, and then on the daily as well too. It could have a nice potential little volume push closer to that $3 level area. So I gotta keep it on watch. It just, it may not be my favorite, but if the opportunity is there, we will certainly capitalize on it. That is all I had, coming in nice and hot with a 29-minute video there. gosh, continuing to make steps every single day. We're just slowly easing ourselves back into that groove and that role. We're finding new preparation techniques and new mental mental states to be able to trade in, and that's great work every single day. And I'm continuing to love the grind each and every single minute I get to spend in front of these screens. So I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.